personally feel in the long run it will be to the advantage of the employees if this process goes through as fast as possible. Because if we do not modernize and if we do not upgrade, then I'm afraid the organization may not exist anymore. Therefore, the jobs may not exist anymore and the children may suffer. So therefore, in today's circumstances, as from the management point of view, it must not forget its social responsibility while trying to achieve this maximization of efficiency. I believe there has got to be a constant dialogue between employers and employees. I believe that the employee must be taken into confidence, and I personally believe that we have to convince the person concerned that this is the best method of production and that productivity alone will eventually win in the end. I also very strongly believe that if this reduction in workforce is to take place, then we must evolve a package whereby the worker gets sufficient emoluments, finances, to enable him to survive till such time that he is able to find another job, train himself, and then gainfully be employed, thereby relieving the human sufferings. And that's what Rotary is all about. And over and above this, I personally believe that we can even help these workers to set up tiny industries if we take upon ourselves to do so. I've been asked to speak on this subject. If you don't want to, then I'll end it right now. I will end it because I believe that there is a request that Mr. Russy Mody should speak. So therefore, I just like to end by saying that one last aspect, conclusion, and that says, there was a personal manager who says, how long did you work in the other place? And the job applicant said, 55 years. The personal manager says, how old are you? And the job applicant said, 45 years. So personal manager says, how could you work 55 years when you're only 45? He said, overtime. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now therefore pass on this mic to Mr. Russy Mody, and I will do my last bit by introducing him to you. Mr. Russy Mody was born in Bombay on 17th of January 1918. He is an Arts Honour graduate from Harrow and Christ Church in Oxford. He has had a distinguished career in leading industrial houses in the private sector in India and abroad. Till recently, he was the chairman of the Tata Iron and Steel Company Limited and other companies of Tata Group of Industries. Mr. Mody is one of the most well-known corporate personalities of India, and man management has been his forte. He is a member of the steering group set up by the government to formulate the approach of industrial growth during the 8th Plan. National Executive Council established by the All India Village Development Council, All India Organization of Employers, of which I happened to be the president 2 years ago, and sir, I presented to Mr. Irani the award for the best employers 2 years ago. The government body and general body of Sports Authority of India, Coal Advisory Council, Ministry of Energy, Independent Board, Bihar Industrial Reconstruction Corporation, Calcutta, State Planning Board, Orissa, and the Bihar Central Labour Advisory Board. Mr. Mody has been a member of the Board of Directors of Indian Airlines and Air India, Public Enterprises Selection Board, Bureau of Public Enterprises, etc., etc. In recognition of his outstanding work in various fields, Mr. Mody has received numerous honors and awards, including the Padma Bhushan Award presented by the Government of India in 1989 for his achievements in the field of private sector management. He was declared India's best chief executive, and an opinion poll conducted by Business World Mag in March of April 1989 and has featured amongst the 6 top industrial personalities of the world chosen by the BBC for their TV serials titled Money Makers. He was awarded the fellowships of the Duke of Edinburgh's award scheme and World Academy of Productivity Sciences, Norway. He was conferred Manav Ratna by the Bharat Sevashram Sangh for contribution to community development, national integration, and Protection of the Environment in January 1991, and the Pride of India Gold Medal for distinguished services and outstanding achievements by the NRI Institute of USA in New York in July 1991. Mr. Mody is a keen sportsman, interested in golf, cricket, skiing, amateur flying, reading, bridge, tennis, music, and cooking. Mr. Mody.
Oh, I dropped them. No, it's okay. I get a glass of water if I may. No, it's okay. Rotary District Governor, Mr. Ramchandran, President of the Rotary Club of Madras, Mr. Ambadran, Rotarians of the Rotary Club of Madras, Rotarians, distinguished members of the audience, ladies and gentlemen. It's very strange. First of all, let me tell you that I'm really grateful to you for inviting me here this evening and for making it quite sure that whatever my shortcomings are will be known to as many people in Madras as can possibly be accommodated in this hall. The subject on which I'm supposed to speak, and God knows why I'm supposed to be an expert, is no subject at all. If you analyze it, employer-employee relations is a contradiction in terms. All employees of an organization are employees. So who is the employer? The employer is a ephemeral thing called the company. It may be an institution, it may be a cooperative company, but all those who work in the organization are employees. And therefore, really, there is no such thing as an employer-employee relationship inside a company. However, there is a common usage for such a phrase, and all I can say is that it is something not a very difficult thing to talk about or to practice. My own experiences have been totally personal in the sense that I never studied the subject. I've drifted into it quite by chance. And I'll tell you some of my experience. Instead of pontificating today on the employer-employee relationship as you might read in various books, I shall confine myself today to tell you how one's career and life get enmeshed into a particular direction without one having the slightest notion as to what is happening. I have mentioned this 100 times and I repeat again that whatever I have to say is based entirely on personal experiences, and I have truthfully to say to you, I have never read a book on personnel management, employer-employee relationship. I have not been to a school. I have not been to a labor camp or anything. I am purely talking of my personal experiences. I was in the 7th year of my career in Tata's. I was buying coal for the company in the office in Calcutta. And one day, Mr. J.R.D. Tata and the great Sir Rishabh Dalal came to Calcutta, and the Chaprasi came in true fashion in those days and said, Tata Sahab Salam Diya. My first reaction was to say to him, Tata Sahab ko hamara bhi salam de dijiye. But then I was told that that was not what was meant. What he meant was that he wants me there and double quick. So I put on my coat, as we had to do in those days, and I went in there. And Mr. Tata said, Russy, I understand that there is a federation called the Mercantile Federation of India, consisting of all the clerical staff in West Bengal particularly, who have formed a federation, and every clerk in Calcutta is a member of that federation except the 25 people working in your section. So I went outside and I checked on it and I came back and I said, yes, it happens to be true, sir. He said, what have you done? I said, nothing. I play tennis, I buy coal, I have nothing. But I presume if I treat my people correctly and rightly, they will feel no need to go to somewhere else for succor or help and form unions and things like that. He said, well, let's cut out the talk like this. I am forming a new personnel department in Jamshedpur and I want you to go and join it. I said, yes, sir, what does that department do? He said, it looks after the human needs of our workers. And I said, what makes me qualify for that? He said, well, I feel that you should go there. I said, if you feel so, that's the end of the story, I'll go. When can you go? I said, tomorrow, day after, when you want me. He said, go within a week. So I landed there and was promptly placed in charge of the labor of the mines and collieries. Nothing in Jamshedpur. Mines and collieries were some 60, 80 miles away. But I was supposed to stay in Jamshedpur and look after them. Well, it was all completely new to me. I didn't know that anybody's particularly intended to look after. And I remember reading, the only paragraph on the subject that I remember reading was a note by Mr. J.R.D. Tata forming the first personnel department in India, in which he said, in so many words, that just as a car needs to be serviced occasionally to keep it in good condition, the human being also requires to be serviced, not once in a while, but continuously and every day. And there should be a department that looks after, just as you have a department to look after mechanical breakdowns or electrical breakdown, there should be a department to look after the needs and care of employees. And he called the personnel department. It was a full 2 weeks before I realized that personnel was spelled with a double N and a single L. I thought it was a P-E-R-S-O-N-A-L. But anyhow, I was a very ignorant fellow and still am. But so days went by. This was I was there on the 17th of March, 1947, that I went to Jamshedpur. And on the 4th of May, as I was coming to the office in the afternoon, after a nice snooze, I saw people running down the streets of Jamshedpur, all helter-skelter, and I couldn't understand what had happened. And somebody said, don't go near the works. For God's sake, stay away. Go back home. Don't stay. People on the rampage, they're going to kill you. So my curiosity was naturally aroused. I was only, those days I was about 29 years old. And so I started going towards the works, although the works had nothing to do with me. I didn't know the works and the works didn't know me. I went towards the works. I saw some superintendents with blood streaming down their shirts and things like that, running away outside the works. I couldn't make head or tails of what was happening, but my curiosity was certainly aroused. And I turned the corner into the works. Before I could say Jack Robinson, I was surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of howling and crying. I said, well, this is the end. Well, anyhow, I looked up, and on the balcony, out there was my general superintendent, my general manager. At the back of the crowd, I could see the union leaders standing there helplessly while this crazy mob was shouting and pulling each other to bits. And a management chap was what they were just looking for. So as soon as I got there, Maro, isko maro, maro, that sort of thing. A few choice adjectives were also added, which I shan't talk about today. But they want. So I looked at them and I said, I really was scared because I hardly knew 2 words of Hindi. So I said, Kya hai? So, Kya hai? They shouted at me, Kya nahi, aapko malum nahi hai, kya hai? Dhanakra karte hain, kya puchte hain, malum nahi hai. Kaun hai? I said, hum to bhaiya yahan kaam karta hu, mere mazdoor hu. He said, mazdoor hai, yeah, malum hai kaise mazdoor hai. And they started pulling and tugging at my shirt. So, as a last resort, I said, baat karo na. And to this day, I don't know what happened, what vibe went between us. They suddenly stopped wanting to pull me around. I said, जरा हम लोग बातचीत करेंगे तो ठीक हो जाएगा. They started telling a long list of things which were wrong. I didn't understand half of them, but they kept on shouting at the top of their voice. After about 5 minutes of this, in all innocence, I said, बैठ जाइए ना, बैठ कर बात करेंगे. They were all surrounding me. I could hardly breathe. There were hundreds of them. So, to my amazement, they all sat down. Now I'm scratching my head. What comes next? So I said, आप लोग हमारे पास में आएंगे कल तो हम बैठ करेंगे. आप लोग का क्या तकलीफ है? So they said, आप बात करेंगे? I said, हाँ हम no authority to say that. I was nothing, nobody in class. I said, हाँ हाँ हम बात करें, anything to get out of that situation. So he said, आप बात करेंगे तो हम लोग आएंगे. I don't know why, but somehow or other, an instinct rapport was formed which had no basis in logic, rationale or anything. And to the amazement of the union leaders at the back and the top management crowd at the top, after about half an hour of this grueling testing of my first confrontation with employer-employee relationship, as you call it, I suggested very boldly, अभी काम पर चले जाइए. अच्छा साहब अब लोग जाते हैं. They got up and went back to work. Nobody could understand what had happened, and I to this day don't know what happened. I honestly tell you, to this day I've recited to you factually what happened. There was nothing that I haven't told you, and from that day onwards, I've never had one single moment of friction between a worker and myself. As soon as it became known what had happened, saddest Dalal came running down from Bombay. They wouldn't allow anybody else to go inside the plant. I became the only person who could go in and talk to the workers and report back again what was happening inside the plant. I became a very important man. They installed me immediately in the works to deal with the labor situation. I kept on passing orders left, right, and center. I loved doing that. And I had no difficulty in doing that. Whether they were right or wrong, it didn't matter. Whether the authority or not, it didn't matter. But I nevertheless passed those orders. And very soon I developed a head as big as this. For 3 nights and 3 days, I never put my head on a pillow. Every departmental head was about to be beaten up, and the call would go out, please come and save us. So I would go out there, spend the night there, whatever it was, and come and bring those superintendents out. This was my